Hello, this is Serb Atheist, and in this video I will continue my series towards 2100, where I talk about what I think will be happening about in the future. In this video I will focus on the social aspects of the future. Now, these are in essence the most difficult aspects to actually predict. I mean, people, in Jetsons, for example, predicted we'd be driving space cars. People always go wild with their imaginations, predicting technological change. That's, in this modern age, sort of much more intuitive and easy to grasp. But in Jetson, you still had wifey staying home and cooking meal for the hubby, as if it was socially and culturally still the 50s. So there's always something that's really extremely actually anachronistic about sci-fi movies, is they always go wild on technological stuff, but are definitely the social products of their own generation, more or less. So my guesses and my task here will be much more difficult. Well, there is one prediction that's pretty safe to make. Prostitution and pornography will become legal, widespread, and completely normal. I'm predicting that we're going to have chains of whorehouses within 50 years, just like McDonald's. That is one pretty safe prediction to make. Pretty safe. That, the attitudes towards sexual liberalization will simply end at their natural endpoint. Of course, gay marriage and other social things in the realm of acceptance of homosexual people will continue to chug along. So that's going to be the world we're going to live in. Also, we are going to live in, slowly a more sensitive world towards environmental issues, considering our global warming definitely. We're going to stop living in a unipolar world and slowly start living in a multipolar world. The end of Cold War was, in retrospect, the worst thing that could have happened to America's hegemony of power. And we see that fact very easily, for the simple reason that when you don't have a single bad guy that's almost as strong as the good guy, you cannot bully smaller countries into the either you're with us or against us crap. That is how big powers work. They foster division everywhere they go. That is how they create power. That is how they maintain power. So we're slowly seeing 6 centers of power emerging without a doubt. USA is still going to be a center of power. European Union, Russia, China, India, and the Arabic world. 6 different strong centers of power slowly emerging, which in retrospect is a pretty good thing, because the centers will not, you can have completely one set of alliances in one realm, in say energy policy, but a completely different set of alliances in another realm, say manufacturing, or politics, or human rights, or religious affiliation. You're essentially going to have a much more complex and tangled situation. I mean, when France refused, a good ally of USA, refused to join the war in Iraq, Americans for a while screamed at the French as if they were, ex-Soviets. They could not simply get used to a world in which you have friends, but in some cases your opinion and the opinion of your friends will be different on certain issues. There will be disagreement, but you're still going to have to cooperate, and you're still going to want to cooperate, more importantly, on some other issues. This is also good news for smaller powers, for the simple reason that if one power, when you had two big powers and you were stuck in a single block, then you had very little voice actually. But now if your bloc does not like your policy in a certain area, you can go to another bloc for support, which is very simple. The West, we want to be part of the European Union. In Serbia, we want to be an active participant. We want democracy in our country. We want human rights, but our international rights in terms of Kosovo are being disrespected. So on that issue, guess what? We turn to Russia for support. And it makes no use to whine. European Union and United States pick their side in the disagreement between Serbs and Albanians in Kosovo. We're going to support and be aligned with people that support us. It's as simple as that. It's like I remember Gore, who was completely vehemently for Kosovo independence, not Gore, Kerry, then writing a completely apologetic letter to the Serbs and actually expecting Serbs to vote for Kerry. That was really sad, really pathetic. So we're going to have a multipolar world, which will slowly make the world a fairer place, I think. And of course, America's military will to just unilaterally invade other countries. Well, we see how that turned out in Iraq. America may have some economic leverage, but that's nothing close compared to the kind of leverage it had during the Cold War, as well as Russia. It's never going to be that way. You have to just deal with it, that other people have their own interests at heart that do not always coincide with America's interest, and the fact that they don't does not mean that we are not democratic. No, vice versa. So, that's in terms of politics. What about religion? Well, I think we have a simple answer. I do believe that religion in the form of being an accepted institution will die out within the next 200 years. And it's not going to be atheism that does it. It's going to be fundamentalism that kills religion. Because the moderates of every single religion will slowly come to realize that they have much more in common with atheists, agnostics, and others than with the fundies of their own religion. That the fundamentalists are simply going to get more virulent and more aggressive and more violent as time passes on. It's simply the genie is out of the bottle, and the moderate people will realize that it's time to stop kidding around. So I believe most of the religions will go by the way of what happened to the Anglican Church for the most part. They will mutate into some benign form of a social institution and perhaps a ritual service. De facto, that's what's happening in the Serbian Orthodox Church, except there are large fringes of seriously devout people, but there are also fringes of fundi. There are also fringes of fundi emerging in the Orthodox world of the worst racist, xenophobic kind that fortunately the devout do realize and are much more aggressive against them than I think there are in the Western countries. Okay, I'll stop here because it's my 10-minute mark. I'll continue in part 2.